How's it going, everyone? It's MJ Vallejo, the host of the Creative Crucible podcast. Now, before I release any episodes with some of my talented and hardworking guests, I want to release a pilot that kind of better explains what this podcast is going to be about and who it's for. And of course, I think it's important to know who your host is, which is me, and why I'm doing this in the first place. So I guess I'll just start off about me. So my name's MJ Vallejo, and I am a videographer and a filmmaker based in the San Francisco Bay Area. And I've been doing this for about maybe 3-4 years now. Paid professional video work for about 3-4 years now. And I think the whole point of me doing this podcast is I want to interview other people who are turning their hobbies and passions into a source of income as well. Mainly a lot of other artists will be on the show, small business owners, and just motivational people in general. I want to prove to you that anything really is possible when you have a clear vision and a clear sense of honesty with yourself and what you're doing. I would say in the past, maybe even like decades ago, it's a risky career decision where there's a chance that you probably won't make any money and you're basically going to struggle your whole life, but you're going to be happy, right? In today's world, I really don't believe that. I think that is super untrue. I think the age of the starving artist is done nowadays with things like the internet and social media. Really, you can turn anything into a source of income as long as you're passionate about it and you're good at it. Of course, you got to be very proficient in whatever you're doing to make any kind of money off of it. This podcast really isn't I'm not aiming this podcast for filmmakers or videographers. Even though that is what I claim to be, this podcast really is for anybody who is planning on starting their own business or maybe picking up a side hobby or hustle or trying to find other creative and fun ways to even just make ends meet or pay rent on time. Because I've been there. I know I've said that I've only been doing this for about 3 or 4 years, but when I first picked up a camera, I was delivering pizzas at Papa John's out in Mountain View, and I was using the delivery money to actually buy more equipment, tripods, and things like that. This podcast is also for those who have that mental barrier burned in their head where they feel like it's too late. I'll be honest, I thought about that when I first started, simply because a lot of the noise online, social media in particular, the way I see social media today, it really is a celebration in most cases. The celebration on social media is kind of like you post some content and a lot of your friends, family, even supporters, they just flood you with positivity, and maybe they'll just like hit the like button and then you get that the immediate satisfaction that somebody is liking your content or somebody is supporting your content, and really there really is nothing wrong with that, but it could be discouraging to those who are trying to start a little bit later in life because they're kind of lost on how to get to that point where they get to the point of being considered a professional. Going back to what I was saying about the whole celebration thing, it's kind of like we see a lot of motivational quotes and we see like a lot of things like, let's say like Spielberg or George Lucas or even someone like J.J. Abrams, for example, in the film industry. These guys have been making films since they can remember, since they were little kids. And I don't want people, and this podcast is basically to prove to those that you don't need to start what you love to do or what you're interested in at an early stage in life. It's just not true. Even if you're 20 or 25 or even 40 or 50, if you suddenly want to become a wedding photographer, for example, and you're like, let's say 40, 50 years old, you can do it. I've worked about 12, 13 weddings this year as a videographer, and I have met wedding photographers that have literally purchased their first camera maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and they've created a source of income. They made a business from it. And I understand that something like photography or even videography, those kind of industries, I wouldn't say they're necessarily easier to break through and make money off of, but they are a little bit more mature industry-wise. And what I mean by that is kind of people, it's normalized today that if you want photos or videos for certain events or commercials or things like that, it's normal to pay a pretty penny. That's just what it is. But there's other examples, extreme examples actually, where I've seen some of my old high school friends where they like writing beautiful letters. Like they're really good at calligraphy, and they just been writing beautiful names, and they created a business off of that because they just like sketching cursive lettering, and they're making signage for big events like weddings, for example. I'm going to do a lot of you're probably guessing why am I doing a lot of like wedding industry examples, simply because a lot of my right now I'm recording this, I'm in the dead center of wedding season, and it's really all I can think of right now. I do a lot of commercial work as well, a lot of creative marketing through video as well. But yeah, overall this podcast is for those who have that mental barrier, or who are in the middle of expanding or growing their freelance or small business and are running into even financial or creative barriers as well. Even myself, I'm not going to say that I'm the best in the world. I'm definitely not. And I think the whole point of doing this podcast is because I want to interview other people who are out there and doing it for themselves on top of their day jobs. Maybe it's their full-time job. I want to learn from them, and I want to see how they are breaking through these boundaries. Because there are days for me personally where I'm like, well, how do I even get new clients? Sometimes I'll even go through like a slow month where like I'm not getting any paid work. So how do I break through that, and how do I manage this, and how do I know I'm not going to be just going downhill from here on out? So I don't want you guys to think that I'm a podcast host. I'm more of a student in this whole process, and I want everyone who I interview and everybody who guests on my show to essentially school me on how I can improve, and hopefully that will resonate with you as well, and you can kind of get a better idea of what you want to do next in your next step for your business. Overall, the point of this podcast is for everyone to learn with me. I want everyone to have their hobbies and talents be more than that, to show that there's people out there that want to listen, and there's people out there that are interested in what you love to do. And you really just gotta let it known that you love it, because in the beginning it's really hard to find supporters and followers and whatever. But as long as you approach your business or freelancing from a place of integrity, honesty, and positivity, I really think you can meet the right people with that kind of attitude. And that's what I've been doing for the past 3 years. For example, look at where I'm recording right now. This studio is not even my studio. This is Playground Studios. Shout out to Playground Studios, by the way. They're one of the people who I've networked with like in the past year and a half, and they're like the coolest guys who are super interested in the growth and journey of other creatives, and that's why they're letting me use their studio space. So big shout outs to them. Hopefully I can release these episodes every week. That's really my goal. And if you're interested in becoming a guest on the Creative Crucible podcast, please message me or DM me. Thank you.